here. Thank you so much for watching and listening today. So excited. We are going to finish our series on opportunity launching pads. And of course, I want you to subscribe to this because we have great content. You can pass it on to your friends. Make sure you give them a heads up. Hey, this is a really cool series, opportunity launching pads. And we've been talking about what is a launching pad. So we talked the first episode, the launching pad of ignorance. Second episode was the launching pad of hurt. Third episode was the launching pad of lack. This launching pad, and a launching pad, for a rocket, is a very hard, firm place that gets a lot of adversity, a lot of heat, a lot of hardship and resistance, but it's a place to launch into something fantastic and magnificent, like a rocket up into space. And so whatever the things are that we have, like ignorance or hurt or lack, these things can, in God's hand, become launching pads for God's amazing, miraculous participation. And the last, so to speak, launching pad I'd like for you to think about today, I think it's appropriate, particularly as we're coming into like Christmas, is the launching pad of weakness. I don't really like this launching pad. If I have to tell you, this is my least favorite of all of them because I don't really like weakness. In fact, I do everything I know to do to not be weak. And weakness, or the lack of energy, the lack of strength, can be a whole variety of things. It can be weakness physically. It can be weakness, I know when I travel and I come back from, particularly overseas, I feel weak from the lack of sleep, right? I'm weak in my thoughts. I can't think clearly. I struggle. Weakness can be, like I said, physical stuff. Weakness can be an emotional issue where you feel like I don't have the strength of character. I don't have the strength to respond. I don't have the power in me to face something. So we might hide, we might, kind of disguise or whatever. But weakness, I don't really like weakness. But if we take this idea of ignorance, hurt, lack, then we can apply the same idea, launching pad, to weakness. And I'd reference you to 2 Corinthians 12. Because in 2 Corinthians 12, Paul is discussing what he has called a thorn in the flesh. We don't exactly know what that is. Some theologians say he had some kind of eye ailment with his eyes, but he doesn't really say. But this is what he does come to. He comes to this conclusion in verse 9. He says, he asked, in verse 8, he asked Jesus, implored him 3 times, please take away this thorn in the flesh, this weakness. And Jesus replies to Paul about the weakness. Remember, weakness is an opportunity launching pad. It's a place of hardship and struggle, adversity, deficiency, and fiery trials, difficulties. But it is a launching pad because Jesus says to Paul about his thorn in the flesh, the weakness, he says, my grace is sufficient for you, and my power is perfected in weakness. I find that really fascinating. And it's been kind of rolling in my head in the last several days, thinking about weaknesses. Weaknesses are God's opportunity for power, God's power, to be perfected. And so when I have weakness, and I definitely have weaknesses. I have weaknesses, and I struggle sometimes in some of the social things, like I'm really great at deep conversations. I'm not very good. It's a weakness for me to do shallow, frothy, superficial, what I consider superficial conversation. It's a weakness for me. Maybe it's a character flaw. I don't know, but it's a weakness. I have weaknesses with sometimes people, how they drive. And my weakness sometimes overtakes my mouth and I have to be careful, right? What I say. I have weaknesses. And if I look at those weaknesses, I can either magnify the weakness and it gets bigger and bigger, and pretty soon I become lost in all that weakness. And I find too that when I start to magnify the weakness, it becomes contagious into other areas of my life. And I struggle and I feel weak and I feel frail and I feel vulnerable, and everything starts to get very soft and weak it seems like it kind of spreads into other areas of my life. It might just be this one, but like I said, when I do these social conversations that are thin and kind of short, but just real surfacey, it triggers other weaknesses. It triggers insecurity in me. It triggers, I get awkward in my social interactions. And so then my word, and so it's just like, and it just turns into this like downward spiral. And that's what happens is when we start to magnify the weakness, then it starts to spread into and affect other things. But if we will bring that weakness to Jesus, and in this season, you might feel weak and tired and drained, depleted of energy because it's Christmas and there's all the stuff that goes with it. We have to wrap presents, we have to decorate, we have to go to parties, we have to cook, there's all this extra work. And I get tired. I feel weak and spent. But this Christmas season, we can bring that weakness. Jesus, I'm struggling. I don't have the energy. I feel weak. I feel depleted. I feel the lack of energy. We can bring that weakness to Jesus. And when we do, it becomes a launching pad for His power to be made perfect in us. So that I can come and say, okay, I know I'm going to have to do these activities. I'm going to have these demands on me, these responsibilities. I'm going to have this conversation. I'm going to have to do the socializing. That's kind of for me, the superficial stuff. Maybe your struggle is like the deep ones and you like the superficial, and the weakness is, if I have to talk it down. Whatever it is, bring your weakness to Jesus, because Jesus tells us here that in our weakness, His power is made perfect. And that's a launching pad. That's a launching pad for Jesus to take whatever our hardship and turn and make it something very strong, powerful, and glorifying to Jesus because of His presence. So I'd encourage you in whatever your launching pads, be that weakness, be that hurt, be that lack, be that ignorance. Those are launching pads. Those are places where we can bring to Jesus all of that stuff. And I see them, instead of seeing them as hardships, or, we get handcuffed, or we get stuck in the bondage, the hardship of it, we get cemented into all of that difficulty. Let's instead bring those things to Jesus and say, Jesus, I'm bringing you, here's my frailty, here's my weakness, here's my hurt, here's the lack in my life, here's my ignorance, and I'm bringing it to you, recognizing that you can use this for something very supernatural to glorify you and to magnify you. Because at the end of the day, we're on the cusp of celebrating the birth of Jesus. And Jesus coming into the world, it being expressed through our lives, can really bring tremendous glory and honor and raise the popularity, awareness of genuine Jesus. Not religious Jesus, genuine Jesus. So let's let this Christmas season be the launching pad for Jesus to be glorified through our lives, in spite of our human deficiencies and all the stuff we struggle with. Our stuff is His launching pad for tremendous opportunity with His presence to absolutely change and make bad things become very redeemed, beautiful things. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Of course, thank you for subscribing. And I'd like for you to answer this question. How can Jesus speak into this Christmas in your life in a meaningful way? How can Jesus speak into your life in this Christmas in a meaningful way? I think it'd be really important for you to think about that. It's a little bit of a pondering question, so you kind of have to think about it a little bit. That's not bad. I think that's actually good. And of course, we have this fantastic joke, and I know you're going to love it. What do you call James Bond, right? James Bond taking a bath? You call him Bubble 07. I know, kind of blows your mind. Next week is going to be way better. Thanks again.